DNA damage occurs at a tremendous rate every day. 10 to the third to 10 to the sixth base pair changes occur. The largest impact is on base structure. However, you can get breaks between bases, double-stranded breaks of the DNA, a variety of modifications that impact the function of bases. As a consequence, cell survival depends on being able to repair the DNA, because any change in base pair can affect the function of the protein that's encoded by a segment of DNA. And while alterations in function can be advantageous, for example, a bacteria acquires antibiotic resistance by a change in an enzyme, they can also be deleterious. So you can render an enzyme completely non-functional by a single base pair change that results in its inability to assume its folded functional structure. So it's not surprising that a significant percentage of the coding capacity in all organisms is for repair enzymes, and that's on the order of 3 to 5% across the board, because DNA damage to a bacterial cell can be lethal because it's the only cell, whereas our cells can manage to have a cell or a few that's damaged as long as it doesn't have other untoward changes. So how does DNA damage occur? Well, our own metabolism generates oxygen radicals that can damage DNA bases. UV light damages DNA bases. It crosslinks bases so that it makes it impossible to replicate the DNA. Ionizing radiation of various sorts creates DNA damage. Chemicals can modify DNA and alter its structure. And finally, replication errors can introduce mispaired bases. And all those forms of DNA damage can have impact on the generation of the proteins that are needed for cellular survival. But we also have a lot of ways to deal with DNA damage. In higher organisms, because of the cell cycle in eukaryotic cells, there is a moment where if DNA damage is present, it can be detected, and the cell cycle can be stopped to give the DNA repair systems time to do their business. You can also have transcriptional activation of specific proteins that are able to deal with different kinds of DNA damage. And on the far right, in the worst case, you can go to self-imposed cell death, called apoptosis or apoptosis. But there are also multiple mechanisms for directly repairing DNA damage. Direct reversal of damage, base excision repair, cut out the base, recopy it, make sure it's okay, nucleotide excision repair, mismatch repair, double-stranded break repair, called homologous recombination. So the cell is poised to respond to all of these different types of DNA damage, but because there's so many, it takes a lot of different proteins.